In episode 18, titled Map Trust Boundaries and Network Security Zones Clearly, we turn abstract lines on a diagram into a concrete zone map that limits blast radius when something goes wrong. Boundaries only matter when they shape what can talk to what, under which identities, and with what evidence left behind. A crisp map makes design reviews faster, incident scoping smaller, and audits calmer, because everyone shares the same picture and vocabulary. By the end of this episode, you will be able to describe your zones in sentences, point to their gateways, and defend every permitted flow with purpose and controls. Let us begin by naming the usual zones and defining their explicitly allowed flows. The external zone contains the open internet and untrusted networks. It never initiates administrative conversations inward. The demilitarized zone, spelled DMZ on first mention, hosts edge services such as reverse proxies and public-facing application front ends that broker access without exposing internal address space. The internal zone serves ordinary business traffic and application tiers that do not store regulated data. The restricted zone holds sensitive systems and datasets with tighter controls and fewer paths. The management zone is a separate control plane for administrative protocols and orchestration. Each zone lists its permitted directions, ports, protocols, identity models, and inspection requirements, so no implied trust survives long enough to become folklore. With zones named, inventory the trust boundaries and draw the data flows that cross them with purpose and required controls. A boundary exists wherever the identity model changes, data classification increases, or network enforcement policies differ. For each crossing, write a one-line justification, the authenticating party, the authorization decision point, the encryption requirement, and the logging location. Public to DMZ might permit hypertext transfer protocol secure with client termination at the reverse proxy. DMZ to internal might permit only mutual transport layer security, spelled TLS on first mention, toward a small set of application backends. Internal to restricted might require service-to-service identity and fine-grained authorization at the request level. These sentences become your guardrails. If a flow lacks purpose and proof, it does not exist. Ingress and egress points are the doors. Set them to deny by default and open only for explicit services. Every gateway enforces a policy object that names source zone, destination zone, service definition, expected identities, and security services applied. And every deny is logged with enough context to help diagnostics without revealing internals. Egress deserves as much care as ingress. External access should be brokered through proxies that can filter destinations, enforce domain name system, spelled DNS on first mention, rules, and record accountable identities. When a new requirement appears, you add a specific allow and a reason code rather than relaxing a broad policy. The outcome is a door you can show is open only where work demands it. Separate user traffic from administrative and backup networks so failures or compromises cannot leap across planes. Management planes belong in their own network segments with independent authentication, stronger multi-factor requirements, and minimal exposure, often reachable only through hardened jump hosts. Backup networks carry sensitive data and powerful control traffic. They should never share paths with user web browsing or application flows. Device management, hypervisor consoles, and orchestration interfaces live behind access brokers and conditional policies that check device posture and identity strength before admission. When administration and backup have their own lanes, user-facing turbulence does not yank the wheel from the driver. Segmentation is your steering. Use virtual local area networks, spelled VLANs on first mention, virtual routing and forwarding, spelled VRFs on first mention, layered firewalls, and microsegmentation to constrain lateral movement. VLANs separate broadcast domains and simplify access control lists. VRFs virtualize routing tables to keep tenants isolated. Firewall tiers enforce coarse policy between zones. And microsegmentation enforces identity-aware rules inside a zone so that even neighbors cannot speak without cause. Identity-based microsegmentation, bound to workload identities rather than transient addresses, survives autoscaling and cloud ephemerality. The guiding idea is simple. If two systems do not need to talk, they cannot. And if they must, the rule is narrow, logged, and reviewed. Standardize service tiers so teams reuse safe defaults instead of inventing policies per project. For internet-facing systems, the tier template might require reverse proxies in the DMZ, strict header normalization, web application firewall policies, and one-way connections inward with mutual TLS. For partner connections, the tier might define site-to-site virtual private network, spelled VPN on first mention, approved origin networks, and allow lists tied to partner service identifiers. For sensitive systems, the tier may mandate token-bound service identity, database isolation, and additional inspection. When templates exist, new applications inherit guardrails. Deviations get written as temporary exceptions with expiry, owners, and compensating controls. Remote access must never be a side door. Treat it as a front door with strong locks and bright lights. Enforce secure access through VPN or Zero Trust Network Access, spelled ZTNA on first mention, gated by phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication and device trust checks that verify posture before admission. Route administrative sessions through jump hosts that record keystrokes or session transcripts where lawful, and ensure full logging of session start, elevation events, and sensitive commands. Keep split tunneling decisions narrow and documented, and block unmanaged devices from privileged planes by design. The practical test is harsh. Could a stolen password alone open a remote path to your management network? The answer must be no. Core support services require careful placement and boundaries, or they will quietly leak across zones. Provide local, validated DNS resolvers per zone that forward through controlled paths and apply policy, including domain allow and deny lists. Network Time Protocol, spelled NTP on first mention, should originate from trusted stratum sources and not traverse arbitrary edges. Synchronized clocks keep investigations coherent. Public key infrastructure, spelled PKI on first mention, must operate with explicit trust anchors per zone, clear certificate issuance policies, and revocation paths that function during outages. The rule is, essential services stay inside their security perimeters, crossing boundaries only through designed, monitored conduits. Instrument both north-south and east-west traffic, so visibility matches enforcement. North-south paths, zone-to-zone, and edge-to-interior carry sensors, flow logs, and, where lawful and appropriate, TLS inspection in front of sensitive services to catch malicious payloads hiding in encryption. East-west paths, within and across segments, are sampled with NetFlow or similar telemetry, microsegment logs, and detection policies tuned for lateral movement patterns. Tie sensors to clocks and identities so a single case shows the request, the decision, the actor, and the result across layers. The aim is not omniscience. It is actionable clarity fast enough to matter. Shadow paths undermine the best designs, so hunt them deliberately and close or mediate them. Dual-homed hosts bridge zones by accident or convenience. Collapse them behind a single interface and a broker or remove the extra leg entirely. Unmanaged cloud egress bypasses your inspection stack. Steer it through secure web gateways or cloud egress controls and tag traffic with accountable identities. Developer backdoors, maintenance modems, or forgotten bastions should either be eliminated or brought under the same controls as primary paths. Record every closure with a reason and an owner so the change survives the next sprint or vendor upgrade. A fast mini-review keeps the map honest. For each zone, confirm an owner by name, a written purpose in one sentence, the explicitly allowed flows with their enforcement points, and the monitoring and logging destinations with retention. Check that ingress and egress lists match recent change records, that exceptions have expiry dates, and that metrics report denied to allowed ratios you can explain. This is not ceremony. It is how you catch creeping, temporary rules that became permanent risks. When a zone fails the review, you do not debate. You open a ticket with an owner and a date. As you operate, keep the map current by tying it to change control and asset lifecycle. New services add or modify flows only through tickets that update templates and diagrams. Decommission systems retire rules and remove inspection exceptions. Migrations shift boundaries under supervision with temporary compensations that expire on a schedule. Each quarter, reconcile configured policies against the documented map and compare sensor placements to the flows you claim to monitor. The reward is alignment. The picture, the policies, and the packets tell the same story. We close with a concrete directive that reduces risk immediately. Conduct a boundary walk this week to find and remove a single risky implicit allow between zones. Pick one high-value boundary internal to restricted or internal to management and pull the current rule set. Identify any broad any-to-any or wildcard service that survived earlier phases, write the narrow, purpose-driven rules that should replace it, test both deny and allow paths with probes, and implement the change during a maintenance window with rollback ready. Capture before and after evidence, policy snapshots, probe transcripts, and a short note on the business purpose preserved and attach it to the change record. One closed implicit allow is one fewer blast path, and that is how zone maps stop being drawings and start being defenses. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.